What is going on, everyone? My name is the California Cougar, and if my voice sounds a little bit raspy, that's because I do have a sore throat. I've been dealing with it for a bit, so bear with me because I do need to get this video out, but I do have a bit of a sore throat, so yeah, just bear with me here. But today, I'm going to be doing another Major League Baseball video. That's right, I got my San Francisco Giants jersey on, I got my D-backs hat on. We're going to be talking about Major League Baseball. And this is actually going to be a Major League Baseball predictions video because the 2019 Major League Baseball season starts tomorrow, so I need to make my predictions for who I think is going to, like what the standings are going to be, who's going to be in the playoffs, who's going to win the Cy Young Award, MVP, Rookie of the Year, things like that. So, without further ado, let's get started. Jumping right into it, first of all, I'm going to start off with the standings, starting with the American League East. Coming in 5th place, I think, is going to be the Baltimore Orioles. They were the worst team in baseball last year, and I think that's going to be the case once again this year. Their team is young, they're not quite ready yet, their starting pitching's not very good, their bullpen's not very good, they've lost Manny Machado and Adam Jones, so, I mean, their lineup arguably got worse. Do I think they finish with as bad of a record as they did last year? No, but I think it'll still be close, and they're definitely going to finish in last. So, yeah, 5th place, Baltimore Orioles. Coming in 4th place in the American League East, I think will be the Toronto Blue Jays. I mean, yeah, I think they're rebuilding. They're trying to get better. They got Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who I think will come up at some point this year. He's the #1 prospect in baseball right now, and their starting rotation is actually not terrible if you look at it. I know they got Marcus Stroman in there, they got Clay Buchholz, they signed him to a free agency deal. But yeah, everything else is just kind of meh, just not really up to the major league level. So I think they finish 4th. They'll finish ahead of the Orioles, but not much better than that. Coming in 3rd, I think will be the Tampa Bay Rays. I mean, they finished 3rd last year. They had a really good record. They surprised a lot of people, even after they traded Chris Archer to the Pirates. They still had, they have Blake Snell. He won a Cy Young last year. And, I know they did the whole opener strategy, which I don't like. I'm not a fan of it at all. But, I mean, it worked for the Rays, so, I mean, who says they won't do that strategy again? They probably will, except maybe for Snell, but that's really it. Oh, and Charlie Morton. I keep forgetting they got Charlie Morton as well. Because their bullpen's actually pretty good. So, yeah, and they're hitting, I know that they added quite a few players, I think, actually. I don't remember exactly who they added, but I know they did add quite a few players. Charlie Morton, I know, is a big one. But, yeah, I think the Rays, I don't think they'll quite be in playoff contention again, but I think they'll be close. So, yeah, I think they'll finish 3rd overall in the AL East. Moving on to 2nd place, who I think is going to be in 2nd place. This might surprise some people, but I think the Red Sox are going to finish in 2nd place this year. The Yankees, they've only gotten better, and that's why I think the Yankees will finish 1st. And the Red Sox, they didn't really do anything to get better besides re-sign Nathan Eovaldi, and they gave Chris Sale an extension, which, by the way, I'm surprised they haven't given Mookie Betts an extension. Although supposedly Mookie Betts turned down an 8-year, $200 million extension before the start of the season last year. So yeah, maybe they're just not going to extend him more, or maybe they'll extend him after this year is over. Who knows what they're going to do with Mookie Betts? But yeah, their lineup is still really good with Benintendi, Bogarts, Betts, J.D. Martinez, and the rotation's pretty good with Price, Sale, Eovaldi, and Eduardo Rodriguez up there, but the problem is their bullpen. They lost Craig Kimbrell, they lost Joe Kelly, and yeah, the rest of their bullpen, it's a little sketchy. So that's why I think they'll finish in 2nd in the AL East. And then 1st place, of course, you have the Yankees. The Yankees just have pretty much everything they need to win a World Series this year. They have great hitting. They have good pitching. I think their starting rotation is very underrated. They have one of the best bullpens, if not the best bullpen in all of baseball, with Zach Britton and Dellin Betances, Aroldis Chapman. Let's see, they got a bunch of other guys too. Adam Ottavino was another one, and of course that lineup is just scary. I mean, You got Luke Voigt at first. You got not Daniel Murphy, DJ LeMahieu at second. Didi Gregorius, he's going to be out for the first half of the year because of Tommy John, but if he does come back, he'll obviously make a big impact. And even when Didi's not back, they got Troy Tulowitzki on like a $500,000 one-year deal, like the league minimum. So what more could you ask for there? And of course, you got Miguel Andujar at third. And then the outfield, of course, you have Aaron Judge. You have Brett Gardner. You have Aaron Hicks. And, of course, DH, you got Giancarlo. Gary Sanchez is catching, and I'm surprised that he had such a bad year last year. But, yeah, I do think he makes a comeback this year, at least hitting-wise. And, of course, you still have Gleyber Torres on the bench. So, yeah, the Yankees are scary this year. And then their starting rotation. I mean, I know Severino and Sabathia are going to be out for the first month and a half or so. But still, you have James Paxton, J.A. Happ, and who is that other guy? Did they get Gio Gonzalez? I think they got Gio Gonzalez. But, yeah. Mashiro Tanaka, that's the other guy. So, yeah, I think the Yankees will be set to go to the playoffs and potentially win the World Series this year. So that's why I think they take first place. Now moving on to the AL Central. This is probably the weakest division in all of baseball, and it's going to be a one-team race. But let's start off. I think last place, Kansas City Royals. I mean, Kansas City Royals, they got some young talent in there like Jorge Soler and a few others, but other than that, really not much to them. Their rotation's not that great. Their bullpen's not great. And it's just, yeah, I don't think they do well this year. And they're rebuilding. I mean, they just won the World Series in 2015, so I mean, their fans can wait for a little bit. They've waited longer than 3 years for a World Series. Now, in fourth place, I think will be the Detroit Tigers. Again, they're also in a rebuilding phase. Plus, Michael Fulmer is having Tommy John surgery, so he's going to be out for the year. Which means their pitching's down to like Jordan Zimmerman and a couple other guys. Yeah, not great. I mean, they still have Miguel Cabrera playing. They're still paying that guy a ton of money. They still have Nick Castellanos, who may or may not get traded this season. We don't know. But yeah, overall, I just don't think the Tigers have what it takes. I think they finish fourth. In third place, we got the Chicago White Sox. Now, this is a team that could be good within a few years. They got a really good farm system. They got Eloy Jimenez, who's one of the top 5 prospects in all of baseball, and he just got a huge extension with the White Sox, too, without even playing a major league game. So that just shows how good he's done in the minors. And I think he'll have a breakout season this year. I don't think it'll be enough to get the White Sox anywhere close to a playoff spot, but I mean, give them a few years' time. Maybe they can snag a free agent like a Mookie Betts in a couple years or something like that. I mean, they missed out on Machado and Harper this year. So, yeah, maybe they'll get good in a couple years, but who knows about them. But this year, I think they finished third. In second place, I think will be the Minnesota Twins, and I think it might be closer than you think, but ultimately I do think the Twins will finish second. The Twins actually made some surprising additions as well. They got Jonathan Scope, they got Marwin Gonzalez, and they got a few other guys as well. I don't really remember all of them, but I do think they improved their team a lot. The problem is their starting pitching is not that good. So, yeah, I don't think their pitching is going to get them anywhere into a playoff spot or anything like that. I do think they'll do well enough to finish second, but ultimately, I mean, come on, first place, it's going to be the Cleveland Indians again. It's really a one-team race. Just their lineup's not great. Their outfield's not really that deep. I mean, they didn't really do anything to improve that outfield this offseason besides sign Carlos Gonzalez to a minor league deal. But nonetheless, sorry about that. They still have Francisco Lindor. They still have Jose Ramirez. Although Jose Ramirez was apparently injured in a spring training game. He was carted off the field, and he's kind of day-to-day right now. So, I mean, we'll see what that injury is going to lead up to. But, yeah. I mean, Lindor, Jose Ramirez, and, of course, that starting rotation is very scary with Corey Kluber, Trevor Bauer, Carlos Carrasco leading the way. And they also have Brad Hand in the bullpen, so I mean, I think the Indians are going to take home the first place. I think the Indians will take the division title again. All right, now moving on to the AL West, and again, I do think this will be a one-team race. So I think in 5th place it's going to be the Texas Rangers. I really don't see how the Texas Rangers do any better than they did last year. I mean, they're starting pitching. They have Mike Minor, but that's pretty much it. Their lineup is not that good. Adrian Beltre retired. They still have Elvis Andrews in their lineup, but other than that, I mean, they signed Hunter Pence to a minor league deal, but other than that, I just don't see how they do any better at all this year. So yeah, I do think the Rangers will end up in 5th. In 4th place, I think is going to be the Seattle Mariners. And the Seattle Mariners surprised everybody this offseason when they just got rid of a lot of their big players. Robinson Cano, Edwin Diaz, who else did they get rid of? James Paxton. And I know they've been trying to ship D. Gordon this offseason. So yeah, Mariners are just tearing it all down. They've decided, you know what, we're going to tear it all down. Even after they had not a bad season last year. Like, they were above 500. So they weren't terrible. So it's kind of surprising that they decided to tear it down and start a rebuild. And I'm sure Mariners fans aren't too happy with that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think they'll finish last, but given that they've just decided to tear it down. And of course, they actually added Edwin Encarnacion as well, so that was kind of surprising, given that they were tearing it down and all that. But yeah, I mean, I think they'll do well enough to finish 4th, but not any better than that. All right, 3rd place, I think, is going to be the Angels, the LA Angels of Anaheim. I think the Angels, they've improved a little bit this offseason. Let's see, yeah, I know they added a couple pitchers, but no one too big. They have Justin Bour, and of course they got Mike Trout. Shohei Ohtani is going to be out for the first half of the year, but I know he'll make a comeback. But yeah, I mean, Mike Trout, he's the best player in all of baseball, and it sucks that the Angels are kind of wasting his prime. But, I mean, hopefully the Angels will one day win a World Series for him, because he just signed that huge 12-year extension for $430 million. So yeah, they better win a World Series for him. And of course, he's one of my favorite players. But yeah, I think this year they'll finish a solid 3rd place. I think they'll finish above 500, but not too far above that. All right, so in 2nd place we have the Oakland A's. Now the Oakland A's, they, much like the Rays, they surprised everybody last year. A lot of people didn't think they were going to be that good, and they finished with a 97-65 record or something like that. I mean, they were a lot better than. I mean, they were better than most of the National League teams that made the playoffs last year. So, yeah, I mean, they got a good starting lineup. They got Chris Davis hitting bombs, hitting 247. He'll probably do that again this season. And they have Steven Piscotty up there. They don't have Jed Lowry anymore, but they do have Matt Chapman with that Gold Glove third base defense. They're starting pitching. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with that. I think, did they re-sign Brett Anderson? I don't remember. But yeah, I know Edwin Jackson, he's still on the free agent market. Sean Manaea is going to be out for the year because of injuries. And I know Liam Hendricks, he was like their opener in the wild card game, but he didn't do too well. But yeah, so the pitching is really what's in question. But they got a really good bullpen. They got Blake Trinan in that bullpen, locking down games with that super low ERA of his. He was probably the best closer in baseball last year, one of them. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the A's do, but I do think they finished 2nd. And in 1st place, of course, you have the Houston Astros. I mean, I don't really think it's going to be anywhere close. I think the Astros just take it all the way. They signed Michael Brantley even after they lost Marwin Gonzalez. They also have George Springer still. They got Altuve. They got Gurriel, Reddick, Tony Kemp. They got a lot of good hitters on their team. A lot of good hitters that can do really well. The question is going to be their starting pitching, because they don't have Keuchel anymore. They don't have Morton. They did go out and they got Wade Miley, and they still have Verlander, and they still have, who is there? Garrett Cole. They still have Garrett Cole. But, I mean, that's going to be their question, is their starting pitching. Their bullpen's pretty strong, though. So, I mean, as long as they can get some wins with their starting pitching, like Colin McHugh, as long as he can get some wins, I think Colin McHugh will be the one starting as well. But Lance McCullers, I know he's injured, so yeah, that's really their only question, is their starting pitching. But I do think they easily take 1st place in this division, so that's where I think it'll end up. Now we move on to the National League, starting off with probably the toughest division to predict in all of baseball, the National League East. Now, last place, that's the easiest one to predict. It's going to be the Miami Marlins. I mean, when you basically take away all the big players on your team in less than a year, you got a problem. Like, I don't know what the Marlins were doing last offseason when they got rid of Giancarlo Stanton, Christian Yelich, Marcell Ozuna, Justin Bour, who are their other guys? D. Gordon, that's another one. And, they had one more too. JT Realmuto, they traded him this year. So, yeah, I'm not really sure what the Marlins are doing, but we all know they're going to finish last this year, so moving on. Now in fourth place, this might be controversial, but honestly, I think it's going to be the New York Mets. I really do. I think the Mets, while they improved a lot this offseason, they went out and they got Robinson Cano and Edwin Diaz from the Mariners. They signed Jeurys Familia to a 3-year deal. They also went out and they got Jed Lowry. And they have younger players like Michael Conforto and Brandon Nimmo and Ahmed Rosario, is that his name? I don't remember. Rosario at shortstop. They went out and they got Wilson Ramos at catcher. And of course they have a pretty scary pitching rotation too with Jake DeGrom, Noah Syndergaard, Zach Wheeler had a pretty good year. Steven Matz and Jason Vargas, I'm not too sure about them, but yeah, I mean, their rotation's pretty scary. Now, they could finish second, and they could even finish first, but ultimately, I do think they finish fourth. I think they need maybe 1 or 2 more years before they can really get back into contention. But, I mean, again, we'll see. In third place, I think will be, honestly, this one might surprise you because they won the division last year, but I think the Atlanta Braves are going to finish in third. Why? Because they didn't really improve anything this offseason. I mean, they got a decent rotation with Fultonevich, Tahirin, is that his name? Sean Newcomb, and I forgot their other pitchers, but yeah, I mean, their rotation's decent, and of course they have Ronald Acuna, and they have I forgot who all their other players were. Nick Markakis, I think they went out and signed him, but yeah, I just don't know. I don't know how they repeat after not really improving at all this offseason. And look at the Phillies, Nationals, and Mets. They all improved a lot. So, I mean, the Braves could finish fourth for all we know. But yeah, I do think they end up in third. So, yeah. Alright, coming in second place, I think, will be the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies are one of the most improved teams in all of baseball this offseason. I mean, they went out, they got Andrew McCutchen. They went out and they traded for Gene Segura from the Mariners. And they also added Bryce Harper. I mean, Bryce freaking Harper. How do you top that? But yeah, and they also went out and improved that bullpen with David Robertson. They went out and they traded for JT Realmuto. And of course, they still have Aaron Nola, Jake Arrieta, Nick Pivetta, and Zach Eflin, is that? Or Eflin, I don't know, and Vince Velasquez in the rotation. I think the rotation's very underrated. I think the Phillies are going to do great things this year. Don't think it'll be quite enough to finish first, but I think they'll do really well. And in first place, you got the Washington Nationals. I mean, even without Bryce Harper, they still have Juan Soto. They've got a dangerous starting rotation, probably the best in baseball, with Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg. They went out and they signed Patrick Corbin. They went out and they signed Anibal Sanchez. And Joe Ross, I think, will have a better season this year. So, yeah, the Nationals, I think, are destined to do great things. They got Anthony Rendon, who I think is an underrated third baseman that I'd love to see the Giants go out and get once he hits free agency. But I don't know if that's going to happen. But, yeah, Nationals, I think, will easily win this division. It's going to be a tight race between the Mets, Braves, Nationals, and Phillies, I think, but I do think the Nationals will end up on top. Now we got another tricky division to pick with the NL Central. So first up, in last place, I think, will be the Pittsburgh Pirates. They're like the one team that I didn't really see much improvement from this year. I mean, they've got a decent rotation with Taillon and, is that how you pronounce his name? Taillon, and they got Chris Archer still, but yeah, I just don't think their hitting's going to be good enough to get anywhere close to the top of the division there. So yeah, and I think they're just going to end up in a rebuilding phase. We'll see, but that's just where I think they end up. All right, so next up, In fourth place, I think is going to be the Cincinnati Reds. Cincinnati Reds improved quite a lot this offseason, adding Yasiel Puig, Matt Kemp, Alex Wood, and they went out and they traded for Sonny Gray and Tanner Roark, improving that starting rotation a little bit. And of course, they still have Eugenio Suarez. Scooter Gennett, I think, is going to be hurt for most of the season or something like that. I know he was injured. And of course, they still have Joey Votto, but yeah, I don't think the Reds will be good enough quite yet to contend. But I mean, they got a solid farm system. I think it'll be another couple years. But I do think the Reds will be fine. Or I do think the Reds will be decent this year. They'll be a lot better this year than they were last year, especially since they improved their starting rotation a lot. And so, yeah. Now coming up in third place, this one might be a controversial one, but I think it's going to be the Chicago Cubs. I don't really see how they're going to be better than they were last season, especially since they didn't really do anything this offseason. I mean, they still have Chris Bryant, Kyle Schwarber, Anthony Rizzo, Wilson Contreras, all those big players, but that Jason Hayward contract, that's killing them. They still have John Lester. They just extended Kyle Hendricks. But yeah, I just don't think that they're going to be able to match up with the Brewers or the Cardinals this year, and it sucks because I actually kind of like the Cubs. They're a fun team to watch. I loved watching them win the World Series back in 2016, but I just don't think it's going to be tough to see them not in a playoff spot this year. But I just think that's how it's going to be. So sorry, Cubs fans, but that's just what I think. And in second place, I think is going to be the Milwaukee Brewers for one reason. Their starting pitching is not that great. They have Jhoulys Chacin, and that's about it. I mean, Zach Davies, I don't really see him doing all too well. Brandon Woodruff, I think Brandon Woodruff might have a breakout season, but yeah, they don't really have a lot of starting pitching depth. They lost Wade Miley and Gio Gonzalez. Now, their bullpen is really good. Although Corey Knebel may be having Tommy John surgery, which will put him out for the year. But they still have Jeremy Jeffress. They still have Joe Hader. And they've been talking about signing Craig Kimbrell. So if they do sign Craig Kimbrell, that's going to be a deadly bullpen. And, of course, they're hitting. They still have Aguilar. They still have Yelich. They still have Braun and all those big hitters out there. I think they do well. I don't think they do as well as they did last year, but I think they'll do well enough to get a wild card spot maybe. So that's just how I see it. All right. And in first place, I think is going to be I think it's going to be the St. Louis Cardinals. I really do. I mean, they improved a lot this offseason. They're going to get Carlos Martinez back. They signed Miles Mikolas to an extension. They still have Adam Wainwright on their team. They got a pretty dangerous starting rotation. And, of course, Paul Goldschmidt. They went out and they traded for him. So, yeah, I think the Cardinals, I think it'll be close between them, the Brewers, and the Cubs. But I do think the Cardinals will end up on top, especially after just missing the playoffs last year. And they also have Marcell Ozuna in the outfield. They have Harrison Bader. I think they're going to be doing great things this year. So, yeah, I got the Cardinals winning. Now for the final division. And in last place in the NL West, I think it's going to be, I'm wearing it on my head, the Arizona Diamondbacks. And the reason for this is because they got worse this offseason. They lost A.J. Pollock. They lost Patrick Corbin. They traded away Paul Goldschmidt. And yeah, they went out. They got a few small players like Wilmer Flores and Adam Jones and sorry about that. They have Eduardo Escobar. David Peralta had a pretty good season last year, but I just don't see them doing well at all. I mean, they still have Zach Greinke. They've been trying to trade him. So, and yeah, they may trade Robbie Ray as well, but yeah, I just don't see them doing well this year. And it sucks because it means Chase Field's going to have a lot of empty seats, which means the energy's not going to be as high, the games aren't going to be quite as fun. But yeah, I mean, I'll still go to some games, mainly when the Giants are playing, but yeah, it's just not going to be as high of energy as it usually is. Coming in fourth place, and this one hurts the most because this is my team. The San Francisco Giants. I mean, I'm wearing it on I got the jersey. I've got a shirt under here that also has the Giants on it. I get the flag, everything Giants. But I do think they finish in 4th this year because they did almost nothing this offseason. I don't really know why. I mean, yeah, they tried to go for Bryce Harper, but they didn't get him. And other than that, all they really did was re-sign Derek Holland and sign Drew Pomeranz. So, yeah, they got a good starting rotation with Bumgarner, Holland. They got Rodriguez. Yeah, Derek Rodriguez had a really good season last year. Drew Pomeranz, Jeff Samardzija, who did pretty well in spring training up until the last game. But, yeah, it's going to hurt to watch them this year. And I know their lineup can be good. Longoria, Belt, Panic, Crawford, Posey. I know those 5 at least can be good when they need to be. But the problem is that outfield is just wow. Like Gerardo Parra, Mac Williamson, and Steven Duggar. Now, Steven Duggar I see potential in, but I mean, Parra and Williamson, I'm just not sure about them. I just don't see them scoring a lot of runs this year. So, yeah, that's why I have them in 4th. Their bullpen's not bad either. I mean, they got Tony Watson, Mark Melancon, Sam Dyson, Reyes Moranta, and Will Smith. But I could see them shipping a lot of these guys. And also, I swear to God, if they trade Madison Bumgarner, I'm going to lose my mind. Just sign the guy to an extension already. I mean, everyone else is getting extensions, like Jake DeGrom, Aaron Nola, Miles Mikolas, and, yeah, other people. But, yeah, Madison Bumgarner hasn't gotten an extension yet. So what are you doing, Giants? Give the guy an extension. It doesn't have to be a big one. 3 years, $75 million will do. But, yeah, just go and get an extension for him. All right, now in 3rd place, I think it's going to be the San Diego Padres. They got Manny Machado. That's the big reason. Now their starting pitching's not that great. I mean, Lucchesi, is that his name? I don't know. But, yeah, they have him, Lauer, and a couple other guys. If they can get Dallas Keuchel, then I think they'll be improving a lot. But, yeah, I mean, I think they're still too young. Fernando Tatis Jr. I think will have a good year, but I don't think they're quite ready yet. They got a lot of pitching prospects in the minors, so give them a few years' time, they'll be good. But for now, I think they improve a little bit, but only 3rd place. Now in 2nd place, I'm making a bold prediction here. The Los Angeles Dodgers are going to finish in 2nd this year. Now you might be thinking, whoa, biased much? Yes, I hate the Dodgers, but honestly, like, they didn't really improve their team a lot. I feel like their team got a little bit worse. Yeah, they got A.J. Pollock, they got Joe Kelly, but they also lost Yasiel Puig, Matt Kemp, Alex Wood, Yasmani Grandal, Manny Machado, and sure, they got Corey Seager back as well, but now I could be totally wrong. They could run away with the division, but I'm making a bold prediction here. Like, they've got good hitters, but yeah, and they got a decent starting rotation, but of course Clayton Kershaw's dealing with injuries, and I think Ryu's starting to get a little bit worse. Walker Buehler, I think, will be the ace of the staff in like a few years' time. He could already be the ace this year. Who knows? But yeah, the Dodgers, I think I'm making a bold prediction, but I think they finish in 2nd this year. And in 1st place, you got the Colorado Rockies. I think the Colorado Rockies are due for a division win. They almost got it last year, but lost game 163 to the Dodgers. But I think they redeemed themselves this year. They got a very underrated starting rotation with Kyle Freeland, German Marquez leading the way. That's a really good 1-2 punch right there. And they also have Chad Bettis. They got John Gray. And I forgot who their other guy was. Oh, who was that other guy? Antonio Senzatella, but I know he's not in like the starting 5. Tyler Anderson, that's who it is. But yeah, they got an underrated starting rotation. I think they've got a pretty good bullpen, even though they lost Adam Ottavino. And that lineup is just kind of scary. Charlie Blackmon, David Dahl, Nolan Arenado, who just got a big extension, Trevor Story, Daniel Murphy is going to be playing first base for them this year, Ryan McMahon. Like, really, the only position that's kind of worrisome is catcher. But other than that, they got a scary lineup. And we know they can hit home runs out of Coors Field all day, especially Arenado and Story. So, yeah, bold prediction, but I think the Rockies take it this year. All right, so there's my standings predictions. Now we're going to go on to the awards. Starting off with Rookie of the Year, I think Rookie of the Year for the American League is going to be Vlad Guerrero Jr. I do think he comes up pretty early on in the season, and he just absolutely shines. I think he's going to be the best player for the Blue Jays this year. So, yeah, I have Vlad Guerrero Jr. winning American League Rookie of the Year. National League Rookie of the Year, I think is going to be Fernando Tatis Jr. Now, some may say Victor Robles of the Nationals, but I think it's going to be Tatis Jr. I mean, he's going to be on the opening day roster, so there's that. And I think he's going to do really well. All right, now for the Cy Young. For AL Cy Young, I think it's Chris Sale's time. I really do. It's surprising that he hasn't won a Cy Young yet. But I think this year he breaks through and he finally gets that Cy Young award. For the National League Cy Young, this one's a bit harder to predict, but again, I'm going to make a bold prediction. I'm going to say Kyle Freeland. Kyle Freeland, he had a really good season last year, and I think he has a repeat performance that's even better. And especially with a 2.40 ERA at Coors Field last year. I think he is, and I still think he has room for improvement. And he was 4th in Cy Young voting last year, so who says he can't win this year? So yeah, I think it's going to be Kyle Freeland. I think he'll be the first Rockies pitcher to win one in a while, if ever. I actually don't remember if the Rockies have won a Cy Young or not. And then, of course, you got MVP. Now, I think the AL MVP this year, this one's tough. But I think it's going to be Aaron Judge for the Yankees. I think he finished 2nd in 2017, along with winning Rookie of the Year. But I think this year, he's going to finish 1st. I think he's finally going to get up there. As long as he can stay healthy, I think he'll be in the running for sure. Now, for our National League MVP, I think it's going to be Nolan Arenado. Again, like with Chris Sale being due for a Cy Young, Nolan Arenado's due for an MVP. He's been in the conversation every year since he entered the majors, and I think finally this year he breaks through and he gets that MVP award. I think he bats for well over 300. He plays Gold Glove defense at 3rd. So, he's due for an MVP, and I think he finally gets it this year. All right, now we get into the fun part, the playoff predictions. Now, I think the American League playoffs are going to look something like this. You got the Yankees, you got the Indians, and you got the Astros winning their respective divisions. I think the wild card is going to be the Red Sox playing in Fenway Park against the Oakland A's, and I think the Red Sox are going to win that wild card game, and they're going to go on. They're going to face the Yankees in the ALDS. I think the Yankees take that in 5 games. Astros versus Indians, I think the Astros win 3-1. So it's going to be Astros versus Yankees in the ALCS, and I think the Yankees take it in 6 games. Now moving on to the National League playoffs, I think, of course, you got the Nationals, you got the Cardinals, and you got the Rockies winning the division. I think the wild card spots are going to go to, I think it's going to be the Brewers and the Dodgers. I think it'll be a rematch of the NLCS. And I think it's going to be played in Dodger Stadium. And I think it's going to be close, but I do think the Dodgers will find themselves in the NLDS this year against the first place overall team, the Washington Nationals. And I think the Nationals are going to take that series in 5 games over the LA Dodgers. While the Cardinals and Rockies play, I think the Rockies are going to win this, actually. Bold prediction, but I do think the Rockies will win the NLDS in 5 games against the Cardinals. So now you got the Nationals and you got the Rockies in the NLCS. And I do think the Nationals, I think it's the Nationals' time. The Nationals are going to be like, we don't need no Bryce stinking Harper. We can go without him. And I do think the Nationals are going to take it in 6 games over the Rockies. So the World Series, you got the Yankees and you got the Nationals. And ultimately, I think it's the Yankees' year. I really do. I think the Yankees win the World Series in 5 games against the Washington Nationals, and they win their first World Series of the decade, first World Series championship since 2009. I think it's their year, and as much as I hate to say that because I hate the Yankees, I think they're due for one. They've got the lineup to do it. They got the pitching to do it, especially when Severino and Sabathia come back. And of course, they have one of the best bullpens, if not the best bullpen in all of baseball. So the Yankees are going to be scary this year. So that's my predictions for the playoffs, for awards, for standings. What do you guys think of them? Make sure to let me know down in the comments what you thought. And who do you think is going to win the World Series this year? Who do you think is going to win the Cy Young, MVP, and all that? And what do you think the standings are going to be? Make sure to let me know down in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to my channel for more content to come in the future. I'm going to have some more movie reviews out pretty soon. I just saw Wonder Park yesterday. I might do a video review of that. I don't really know yet. And of course, we got Dumbo coming out this weekend. And then, of course, I have some other videos planned as well. So make sure to subscribe to my channel to stay tuned for that. And until next time, once again, my name is the California Cougar. And always remember to stay California cool. Peace.